Now, Sports Talk with Broads. Here's Hunter Brody.
What is going on, everyone? The Philadelphia 76ers beat the Washington Wizards. I don't give a damn. Ben Simmons leaves with a left knee injury. That is all that I care about. That's the only takeaway when it comes to this game. You know what? They should have put this terrible team away so much earlier than they did. Sure, Joel Embiid had a nice fourth quarter and scored some buckets and shined with some double teams, okay? When he was getting double teamed, he shined and he made some plays happen. I don't care. All I care about is Ben Simmons' health, because without Ben Simmons, this team is going to be screwed. And if you saw the video of him walking to the locker room, it's not promising. That looked really bad. Then you saw some shots of him actually walking with street clothes on, same type of vibe, limping, walking gingerly. Now Woj is tweeting out and claiming that the first reports look, I'm not going to say promising, but it's not the worst news in the world. No swelling, no pain. But here's my problem. This team, this starting five, has barely played together. And here we go once again. I would assume, right, that Ben Simmons is going to miss some time. So here we go again. This team is not going to be playing together, and then we have to find a way during a postseason run to make it form properly. This team has looked like garbage through the first two games of them back in regular season play. Now you throw in the third game. Well, let's be realistic. It wasn't as if Ben Simmons had a magnificent game to begin with when he was actually playing. He shot 2 of 10 from the field. One of those being a three-point attempt, which was nice to see. Smooth, in rhythm, not double guessing, right? Just getting it and shooting the basketball. That was nice, but it wasn't as if he was having some phenomenal basketball game. My point is, the team clearly isn't really rolling right now. It's not a proper team at the moment, and now you're taking away Ben Simmons. Guess what? It's only going to be that much worse, and it truly is devastating. I'll be honest with you. It's devastating that we are at this point, but it's so 2020. I hope that the news comes out. It's not as bad as you think, but in reality, the way that I saw him limping and walking so gingerly, I'm not very optimistic about it. And to be honest with you, it shouldn't even matter if it's not as bad as we think or not, because at the end of the day, knowing how this organization works when it comes to injuries, even if it's not as bad, we probably won't see him for a good amount of time. That's just my guess. Now, before we dive more into this episode of Sports Talk with Broads is sponsored by Orbit Energy and Power, and with over 20 years of experience in the solar industry, they are home to your solar experts in both residential and commercial. Their solar program helps eliminate your electric bill completely. They offer flexible financing solutions such as $0 down. So, it was a non-contact injury for the most part. He did go up to get a rebound, and maybe it happened then. Maybe that's where contact actually happened, but he went up for a rebound, and then he went out by the three-point line, and he put up a pass to Al Horford in the post, and you could see him kind of working that left leg and leaving the floor from there. So, I don't know if contact happened when he went up to grab that board, because there were bodies involved. Non-contact injuries, though, if it was a non-contact injury, could totally be a big-time issue. It's not better if it's non-contact. It could be just as scary. We've seen so many injuries in sports these days be gruesome non-contact and gruesome contact, and vice versa, right? I mean, it could be non-contact, not as bad. It could be not as bad when there is contact. You just never know. Clearly, it's a case-by-case situation. So watching this game, I will say it was a snooze fest. Going up against a team like the Wizards, who flat out stink. I mean, that Wizards team is so disgusting. It's so trash. It's hard to even watch. So when things are happening, it's hard for me to think, oh, well, this is going to relate to playoff basketball. Oh, this is going to relate to when things actually matter. None of that relates to anything. Now, the one thing maybe could be the rotation, but now everything is all off the table because you don't know know about Ben Simmons. Before the game, Brett Brown said he would like to try and get that 9-man rotation down. So I'm happy that Raul Neto wasn't playing because that told me that that's not his mindset for the playoffs. He wanted to get a 9-man rotation down so he will be more in the mindset of what's going to happen in the postseason. Not seeing Raul Neto, check, because that means he won't be playing unless something seriously happens where you have a big problem, of course. But I'm just saying in terms of if everything is normal, let's say, Raul Neto not in the mix. So he went with Korkmaz, Al Horford, Matisse Thybulle, and Burks. I question what's going to happen when someone like Glenn Robinson III comes back. Here's the thing. This conversation right now, it kind of doesn't matter because there's no Ben Simmons. That's up in the air at the moment. No Ben Simmons. Well, that changes literally everything. We just don't know the severity of the issue at the moment. But let's pretend for a second that Ben Simmons will be back for the playoffs, right? We don't know. He could be. I mean, maybe this isn't as bad as it seems, but let's just say, hypothetically, he's back, okay? Korkmaz, Al Horford, Matisse Burks. Where does Glenn Robinson III go? There's only so many minutes to go around. When you look at Ben Simmons playing 40 minutes, Joel Embiid playing 38 minutes, Josh Richardson 35, Shake Milton maybe 30, Tobias 37 or so. There's only so many minutes. You can't fit that many guys in the mix. I can't believe Furkan Korkmaz is the 6th man at the moment. That is absolutely absurd. Every time he walks into the game, I'm thinking, this isn't for real. This isn't for real. This isn't for real. But sadly, it is for real. And for all you Furkan Korkmaz lovers out there, congratulations on the game against the Wizards. It's funny, the amount of texts, the amount of tweets that I get when Furkan has a couple threes. I can't take anything out of that basketball game when it comes to on-the-court play and say, well, that's going to be relevant to the Toronto Raptors. That's going to be relevant to the Boston Celtics. That's going to be relevant if they get there to any team that you see in the second round. It's just not reality, all right? If they somehow get matched up against the Miami Heat, it's hard for me to say that anything that happened to that horrendous basketball team on the other side, anything that happened to them because of the Sixers is going to relate to the Miami Heat. It's just not reality. So for games like this, it's a snooze fest. It's so hard to really dive into it and grasp anything when you're this close to that postseason run. Outside of the rotation, what are you going to say? Joel Embiid did a good job with some double teams? Okay, yeah, I know. Yes, to an extent that's valuable. But stop. I mean, the double team with these two schmucks out there compared to Marc Gasol and the Raptors and the Boston Celtics, it's two totally different versions of the double team. Two totally different type of players and different type of intensity that's going to be after him. I'm not claiming that Joel Embiid won't be able to handle it. You can see improvement, but this Washington Wizards squad is a mess. It's horrible. I couldn't imagine going through that. And it's funny I say that because we sat through the process, right? But the Washington Wizards, holy hell. I think the team that I saw playing at the local park, they could probably give them a run for their money. No doubt about it, actually. I think I'd bet them money line. I'm not even kidding. Shake Milton, 14 points. He had a horrible first game. To see him bounce back last game and have the game winner, that's solid, no doubt. And to see him in that 14-point range. We were wondering what he was going to be like. We were wondering what his point total would be, what he would average in a situation like this. We asked if the moment was too big to be thrown into a starting lineup. Well, if he's giving you a 12, 13, 14, that type of production when it comes to points, that's fine. If the other guys, Ben Simmons, Joel Embiid, Tobias, if those type of players are going out there and scoring the rock, well then, okay, that's what you need. You need a 12, 13, 14, 15 type night out of Shake Milton. So that being said, that's a good number for him. Obviously, he did not get that in the first game, but the next two, against the Spurs and against the Wizards, he did get that. Hopefully that's something that he can continue to do and he can produce at that rate for this team when things matter. This team just never plays together, though. Never. One guy's always missing, whether it's Joel, whether it's Ben with the back, whether it's Josh Richardson, whether it's Al Horford, you name it. Somebody's missing. Glenn Robinson III's now missing. You name it, somebody is missing when it comes to this team, and they never get to properly play together and get some rhythm and get some flow. Speaking of that, you saw at times Ben Simmons with the ball in his hands, and it wasn't as if, like I said, he had a great scoring day, but you did see him at times with the ball in his hands, and it looked natural. It looked good, and I'm already questioning if they should make that move back to point guard, because with what's happening, with 6 games left at this point, 5 games left, and getting thrown into the postseason, I think the point forward thing should be more long-term. I think the point forward thing should be more off-season work and an actual 82-game regular season. I don't know if I'm all about it right now, the more and more I saw moments. I think I'm more intrigued with Ben Simmons with the ball in his hands, but I don't think they go down that road again unless they get desperate and they have to, and their back's against the wall in the postseason situation. But what the hell am I talking about right now? We don't even know if he's gonna be available right now. We have no clue. It's up in the air, and I can't believe we are sitting here today talking about the possibility of no Ben Simmons. That was hard to see. Tears fell down my face. Watching him walk with that little limp slow. I mean, that was a slow walk. And I find it hard to believe when Woj tweets no pain. Like, no pain? Come on. I mean, you don't walk that slow in street clothes after you get changed, shower up, and you walk that slow after you're done for the night. I mean, the only way you walk that slow is if there is pain. You can see the pain just by the way that he is moving his left leg. No swelling I can get behind. No pain, I don't think I can get behind. No pain. If there was no pain, I don't think we'd be in this situation. The Sixers should have destroyed that basketball team. The fact that they didn't is embarrassing. There were times where they were getting to wherever they wanted to on the floor, getting to the paint. The defensive intensity was bad at times, specifically guard play, just getting right by them, going to where they want at will. And I'm just hoping that they did it and they played that way just because it was against the Wizards and they weren't mentally ready to lock in. But I know that's all jokes. I don't believe myself when I say that. Even when I say that, I kind of laugh inside like, shut the hell up, Rhodes. And you're right. I feel the same way because they do that against everybody at this point. I was optimistic as hell for this basketball team. I said they could flip the switch. They can do that. They can flip the switch. But I've seen enough. I've seen enough at this point. We're talking 5 games before the playoffs. The switch, it would have been flipped by now. That's just reality. And since it hasn't, how am I supposed to be here and stay optimistic? I can't. And I can't stop thinking about what are we going to do from here. And here's something else that concerns me. Even when we do get information from Sixers medical staff or however they're going to release it to us, right? A PR statement or Brett Brown speaks or somebody says something. Who knows? Whoever's going to say what happens. How are we supposed to believe them? Are we supposed to sit here and go, you know what? Whatever they tell us from face value, we're just going to accept that and take it for what it is. Let's go back to history, shall we? It's totally awful the way that they communicate to everyone. And it's even worse when it gets to players like Joel and Ben Simmons. That's reality. When it gets to those type of players, it gets even worse. It's bad when it comes to Glenn Robinson and Mike Scott and those type of players. You don't get information about them. But when it's the top dogs, it is multiplied by 3,000, if not even more. So what are we supposed to do when we get some news about Ben Simmons and his knee? I think we have to take it with a grain of salt, really. No way in hell am I taking it for face value because normally it's full of crap. Now, with Joel Embiid, can he do this? Can he ride this for a little bit of time? I do think it's possible for Joel Embiid to take over games without Ben Simmons. I don't think that is unfair to expect in certain moments. Now, when we talk about playoffs, totally different scenario. I'm talking about the next 5 games. Is it possible that he could win some regular season games here down the stretch with just Joel Embiid? Yeah, I think it's possible. The way that he's playing right now, it's locked in. But I will always counter the he's playing well right now with, has he ever faced anyone who can seriously guard him? Miles Turner can't seriously guard him, although he did put him in foul trouble early. There was no one who could seriously give Joel Embiid a little bit of run for their money, give him some toughness at all yet. So, sure, he's had some good moments against players that he should absolutely wax, but I don't know how that relates to the Toronto Raptors and Marc Gasol. The Boston Celtics seems to be a good matchup for them. But that game against Indiana, when he scored 41 and 21, that opens the door for a guy like Brad Stevens and the Celtics to say, hold on a second. There's a way to allow Joel Embiid to get his and to drop 41 and to score 2-pointers consistently and still beat them because we saw Indiana do it. Now, it took a man 53 points to do it in TJ Warren, but that's not the only way to do it. In a game where the 3-point shot is in play, if you allow Joel Embiid to get his and continue to back guys down and score 2 points, I do think that the Boston Celtics could utilize that and counter with their own type of play and see if that works. So my point is, they might allow Joel Embiid to get his, so Joel might get some numbers, and if Ben Simmons isn't in play, they can still counter and still score and still find other ways, and they'll have a way easier time on their offensive side where the Sixers are going to struggle without a defender like Ben Simmons up against a Jason Tatum or anybody else that he's matched up against. So no doubt about it, I am hurt, I'm in pain, I'm disappointed, I'm crushed. I'm emotional right now. There's moments after the game, I literally saw it happen and I couldn't believe it. Also, it's funny, it's not funny, it's like sarcastic funny, that Bryce Harper ended up leaving that Phillies game right around the same time. You saw him kind of grimace, and I was like, oh, you got to be kidding me. First Ben Simmons, now Bryce Harper, but the news did come out that Bryce Harper's back in the lineup for the second game of the doubleheader, so we can all take some deep breaths with that. But not deep breaths for Ben Simmons. It is not time, and I sit here now, and it's hard for me to even fathom at this moment. There is bad juju when it comes to this basketball team. They never, ever, ever get to actually play as a team. Never! And they finally do. And it looks hideous because Ben's playing at a 4 spot and he doesn't look like he's really in rhythm and grasping it. And then this happens. Should we end on a good note? Should we end on the fact that he took the 3-pointer? That's what you need. Like, if Ben Simmons is going to play that 4 position down the road and for a long term, he needs to do that. He needs to do that more consistently. Less of the elbow stuff, more of the stretch 4 stuff. The shot he took, all day. Take it all day. I know he can hit those. I've seen it in real life, and we've all seen it. He can hit those corner shots. If he's going to want to actually be able to play that position, he's going to have to camp out there. Now, it's nice to see him do that, and the fact that he does it now, and it's not as shocking, breaking news, Sixers Twitter goes all crazy, the NBA world goes nuts. Like, people still do react. We still do react, but it's less and less every single time because it's starting to be a little bit of an addition. But we do need more. I don't expect 0 to 100, but I expect a little bit more than 0 to 2, right? And I think we're getting 0 to 2 at this moment. He needs to implement that more. And when he was playing the 4 position, since that first game when he took him, my point is you shouldn't be going 3 games without seeing it. He played 2 exhibition games, or was it? Yeah, it might have been 4 games. Yeah, 2 exhibition games, and then, or was, yeah, oh man, I got to get my thoughts together here. 2 exhibition games after the first one. Then he played 2 regular season games without taking any. So that's 4. If you're playing the 4 position, the point forward position, you shouldn't go 4 games without spacing the floor at the perimeter. He should be taking at least one of those. 1 a game. Come on now. But that's put on pause for the moment. So a couple questions to think about. Are you okay with the rotation as is? Because the rotation was clearly set. Raul Neto out. But once again, this is in mind of Ben Simmons being in. Now with Ben Simmons out, is Raul Neto back in play? I don't know. But with Ben Simmons in, picture him in for a moment. Is the rotation good with you? If it's Korkmaz, Al Horford, Matisse, Burks, you don't have enough time. You don't have enough minutes for Glenn Robinson III unless you take somebody out. My pick is Furkan. Get him the hell out. And it would be Al, Matisse, Burks, and Glenn Robinson III. That's my rotation, but I don't think that's going to be that way. We haven't really even had that much of an update on Glenn Robinson III. I find it hard to believe that he's just going to come back and get thrown into the fire instantly. It's going to take time for him to learn the new role with everything else that's going on. And speaking of him specifically, he doesn't even understand the role, if you remember, when he first got here. Such a joke. All right, there you have it. You know, it's just a nightmare scenario. There's no doubt about it. When someone like Ben Simmons goes out, you just hold your breath until you find out news. But once you find out that news, can you trust it? Thank you so much for listening. Remember that this episode is sponsored by Orbit Energy and Power. They will make sure you receive all the state and federal incentives available for switching to solar. There's no risk and no need for investment. With the solar energy system, you can increase the value of your home by an average of 4.1%. Thank you so much for listening, and I will see you next time.